Hello family, thank you so much for stopping by. If you clicked on this video, then you are here to discuss Iyanla Fix My Life, the bad girl of gospel. If this is your first time here and you like the commentary, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. So guys, my first thoughts on this episode was, it basically made me think about the black church and all of the good that it does and all of the bad that it does. And full disclosure, my experience with the black church, a lot of the people can be very judgmental. And if you don't have a strong foundation, if it's your first time getting acquainted with God and coming to Jesus and all of that, it can really deter you from building that relationship with God. Some of the people can be so nasty and so judgmental, it can really run you away back to the life that you were living before, back to the devil. And I had my own experience with that, and after years of dealing with that, my takeaway was I had to keep my focus on why I came to the church, and that was to seek God, not seek relationships, because people are people, they're flawed. So if you focus more on your relationship with God and not on people, you'll be fine, because people will let you down. They're going to fall short time and time again. So you can't more so focus on people because they're flawed. They're going to do some bad things a lot of the time. So that was my takeaway, and I've been able to continue going to church and keep my relationship with God. And yeah, you can't focus on people. So this episode was The Bad Girl of Gospel. It was about Leandria Jackson. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she won Sunday's Best, which is like a gospel, I don't want to say talent show, but like kind of a gospel American Idol. She's also won some Grammys. So, she's a big deal in the gospel world. And we're meeting her now. She's on a downward spiral. She's had some incidents where she's been on social media, drunk, belligerent, cursing, just, going off about the black church and denouncing the black church saying it's bullshit, for lack of a better word. And I don't know exactly what she's been through, but from what we hear, she's had some problems with the black church, and I think we all have. But like I said, you got to keep it in perspective. So Leandria is 38. We open up this episode with Iyanla meeting with Phil, who is her, I think her label head, and also Leandria's friend. And they're sitting down just talking about Leandria and how she's had this downward spiral, but basically no one has been able to tell her about her alcohol addiction. And Iyanla is explaining to him that Leandria really needs some real friends around her, because in her mind she feels that her predicament has gotten so bad because she doesn't really have true friends around her. Everybody around her, in her inner circle has a motive, for lack of a better word. She's the money maker, the cash cow. So they're basically telling her whatever she wants to hear in order to keep that money coming in. So they're not keeping it real with her and basically telling her, like, look, you have an alcohol addiction and you need help. So I think that's, part of the reason why she spiraled so far, is that she just has a whole bunch of yes men around her and is enabling her to continue her behavior. So Iyanla basically tells Phil that if you're her true friend and you're not telling her the truth, then it's a betrayal. So she's explaining to him that if you're not telling the truth, you're basically as bad as an enemy. You're twisting a knife in her back. So Iyanla basically explains to Phil, like, you got to start keeping it real with her. And we also find out that she's not even recording anymore. So alcohol is evidently destroying her life, you know. So next, Iyanla sits down with Leandria, and Leandria is basically saying that she feels that she doesn't have a problem with alcohol addiction, which I don't understand that. She has an ankle monitor that monitors if she's drinking alcohol or not, because she had a DUI, and she feels that since she's a functioning alcoholic, like she's able to get through her day, she has a husband and children, and since she's able to cater to them, she feels like she's not an alcoholic. So there's a lot of people who feel like that. I know people who were addicted to crack and, you know, other things, and they could get through their day. That doesn't mean that you're not an alcoholic, especially if you've got to the point where you got a DUI and you're wearing an ankle monitor. Like, that spells problem to me. But in her mind, you know, she's all right. She just needs to cut down her drinking, but not cut it out altogether. Most people who have problems don't think they have a problem. So, you know, that's nothing new there. So next, Iyanla has Leandria do this exercise where she determines who she was and where she wants to be. And she has little circles, little cutouts that explains, you know, who she is: mother, wife, gospel artist. And she, I guess in this exercise, she was trying to figure out where the breakdown that led her to, you know, this alcoholism started. And long story short, Leandria is basically saying that she believes that her becoming a gospel artist led to this problem. And I don't know all the facts, but I'm assuming that her being behind the scenes and seeing other artists in the gospel industry and seeing how they behave and how they've treated her has basically put a bad taste in her mouth. And, you know, like I said, on the social media, she's just calling religion BS, F Christianity, which if you go by people's actions, it will it will lead you to think like that. So she's mad at somebody. Maybe somebody she had hope in let her down. Maybe it was several people who let her down and just gave her a bad view of what the church is, what it should be, what it's not. I can dig it. So Iyanla also wants her to determine where she wants to be, and she basically says, you know, I'm not sure if I want to be a gospel artist any longer. You know, when you first become a Christian, you have like this fire, you know, you want to spread the gospel, you want to minister to people. And I know what it's like to come out like that. You had this fire and you're just so excited about the gospel, and then along the way, somebody hurts you or you have a bad experience and you start to lose that fire. And I think that's where she is with this whole experience. So during that exercise, Iyanla is telling Leandria that the people that were around you have let you suffer in silence. So everybody around her probably saw her declining, but since they had some sort of financial benefit, they just took a blind eye to everything. And that's not love. That's not loving. And yeah, basically she has no real friends around her who are really putting her best interests at heart. That's a bad place to be. And that happens not only in, you know, the gospel industry, but any industry. Like, you just have people who are out for self, or they put the money in front of the person. So she needs to clear out all of those people. So next, exercise 2, Iyanla uncovers this little mini bar, and Leandria, I guess, talked to one of the producers on the show, basically telling them what she has a day as far as liquor. And it was crazy when you really put it in perspective. Like, they had these little bowls that were to signify, or, you know, show how much liquor she consumed every day. And I think it was like 5 bowls that they had lined up. So she's drinking first thing in the morning, she's drinking midday. I think she had like 3 Long Islands at 3 p.m. before her children got out of school. And I think she had some more drinks later on in the evening. But, you know, like, I like to drink, you know, and I can only imagine, like, if I actually put a diagram of how much I was consuming throughout the day. Like, you don't think it's that much, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So I think Leandria was at that point starting to realize, like, dang, maybe I do have a problem. But she thought she was fine because she was able to continue functioning. Like, she got all the work done around the house and was able to cater to her kids. But it's like, if you need all of that just to make it through your day, are you really okay? No. So she finally admits that, you know, she's drinking to numb the pain, take her mind off of things just as an escape. And we find out that her brother was killed, and I don't know if it was a car accident. I don't know if he was a pedestrian or he was in a car. I don't know. But at any rate, she lost her brother 2 years ago, and I think he was 32 years old. And, you know, she basically hasn't been the same since. And that's something I can totally relate to. I just lost my brother a few months ago because of a drunk driver. And that's a lot. It can leave you questioning God a lot. You know, like, why? And Iyanla explained to her, you know, like, we all hear that cliche, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away, but that never really makes you feel better, but that's the way it is. So not only is she dealing with the church, she has this pain inside of her from losing her brother. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't know if she was seeing a counselor or not, but she probably needs to see a counselor. I know I am, so I can work my way through this. I'm not trying to spiral. Been there, done that. So she needs some help. So in the next clip, Iyanla is basically trying to prove to her that she really does have a problem. And they play the clips of her on social media saying F the church and it's all BS, and your fave, the person that you're looking up to, are, you know, they're going through the same problems that you're going through. Like, it's just all BS. And Iyanla is basically saying, like, I'm not even saying that your message is not true, because I'm sure Iyanla know, like, them church people be on some BS, you know. But yeah, I'm not saying that your message isn't true, but your delivery, it can't be received because you just coming from a place of anger, you know, and it's just not a good look. People won't receive that if, you know, the way your delivery is just off. And I can relate to that too. I've had a lot of people try to reach out to me on what's wrong with Christianity and the Bible and, you know, all of that. But they were just so negative. It's hard to receive it. So she was, you know, just basically trying to explain that to her. Like, you may not even be wrong, but you got all of this hurt. It's coming off as toxic. So nobody is trying to hear what you got to say. And then lastly, her last moments with Iyanla. Iyanla is trying to express to her that you did go through all of these experiences for a purpose. So you should be taking whatever negative, positive experiences you had with the church and finding the purpose within it, you know, finding out how you should be turning this around into a positive or being able to minister to people. But whatever your purpose is, it's not to drink. God didn't give you all of these things to deal with. Whatever conflicts you had, the main objective was not for you to be drunk every day. That's not the takeaway. And then she finally asked, you know, like, does alcohol shape every aspect of your life? And that's one of the ways you can determine if you're alcoholic or not. So I guess if you waking up thinking about alcohol and when I'm going to get my next drink, like, alcohol is shaping your entire day. So it's like most likely you're an alcoholic. It's more than just, you know, recreational. Like, if you got to have a drink just to get through the day, you more than likely have a problem. Yeah. So the next scene, we meet Terrence, which is her brother. He's 31, and we get a little more background on how they grew up. And we find out that they were pastors' kids or PKs, and I don't know if y'all know a lot about preachers' kids, but most of the time those be the wildest kids because they've been on so much restriction. And we find out that that is the case with Leandria and Terrence. Like, they couldn't go anywhere when they were coming up. They weren't allowed to just be teenagers and experience things like the rest of us out here. So when you grow up like that, the moment you get a little bit of freedom, you just want to, you know, go out and do everything to the max. To the max, you know. So that might be part of Leandria's problem. Like, she got freedom now. She can do whatever she want, and maybe she just doesn't want to admit that partaking in, you know, all this drinking eventually was harming her. Because it's kind of like admitting that what her parents did as far as the restriction was the right thing to do. So maybe she just doesn't want to admit it, that she done messed up. I don't know. But we do find out that Terrence also has an addiction. It's not alcohol. He doesn't say what it is. But Iyanla is basically telling him that, you know, you need to let your sister know that you also had this problem so she won't feel like she's the disgrace to the family. You know, like, just showing some empathy and understanding. Maybe that'll help her get over this hurdle. Like, you know, it's not just me. Other people go through this, and it's not, you know, this big stigma attached to this. So that was Terrence and Iyanla. So we cut to the next scene. Leandria, I guess, is just having a wave of emotions, just listening to Iyanla, and she wants to quit the process and walk out for whatever reason. I don't know, but Iyanla comes out and she's quoting scriptures to Leandria. You know, one of my favorite scriptures, lean not into thy own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge God and he will direct your path. That is one of my favorite scriptures, by the way, because it's been so many times where, like, you just don't know what is going on in your life, but you just kind of just got to take that leap of faith and keep walking forward and trusting God. And before you know it, you'll be in a better place. So I can totally relate to that. Leandria probably doesn't know what is going on in her life because she reached such a high height, you know, becoming a gospel star. She got the Grammy, and now she's on Iyanla for alcohol addiction, and Iyanla is trying to get her to do something totally different so she can get back to where she needs to be. So I'm sure she's confused, really confused, maybe wondering where God is leading her, why all of this happened to me, why she lost her brother, you know, like what is going on. But if you keep the faith, God will lead you exactly where you need to be. So that's very good advice. Sometimes you just don't know what is going on with your life, but you just got to keep walking with God, you know. Got to keep walking with God. Even when it don't feel good, even when you're confused. But good takeaway there. So the next scene, we meet Robert. He's 35. He's Leandria's booking agent, and wasn't too many takeaways here. It was basically more of the same. Iyanla was explaining to him that Leandria has had a lot of basically yes people in her life, people who were scared to tell her the truth because they had some type of financial motive or financial benefit, to basically keeping her complacent, keeping her silent, toxic silence, and allowing her behavior to continue. And Iyanla is basically asking him if, you know, if she has all of these people around her that love her, like why is she in the predicament that she's in? So that's basically all we took away from Robert there. Not too much there. So yeah, basically bringing this to a close, Iyanla sits down with Leandria. I guess she's decided not to give up on the process, and Iyanla explains to her that, you know, if you were to attend Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the first principles was to admit that my life has become unmanageable and I have to turn it over to a higher power, and basically explaining to Leandria that you may not think you're an alcoholic, but I think that you can agree that your life has become unmanageable. We find out, you know, in the beginning that she's not recording anymore. She's not recording any new songs. She has the DUI. She has the ankle monitor. So it's like your life has become unmanageable. So like I would hope that you can agree that you need to turn your life over to God or someone who can help you manage your life. So it's good that Leandria didn't walk out, you know. I think she really does want to change. She knows something is not right because she didn't have to come on to the show. Even though Phil wrote in, I don't think she would have agreed to have come if she didn't think nothing was wrong. So good first step. I think she's on board for that. So in closing, Phil comes in, which is the label head guy, and Iyanla wants him to basically set some boundaries with Leandria. And he explains, like, you know, look, I love you, you're my friend, you're not just my coworker, you know, and because I love you, I'm going to set these boundaries. So he basically says, I want to see some changes in the next 60 days with you. I want to know that you're committed to cutting down on the drinking, acknowledging that you have a problem. And Iyanla interrupts him and basically says that, you know, why don't you give her 90 days because that's the number of completion. I guess 9 is the number of completion. But also to realize that she is an addict. Like, alcoholism is a sickness. So you can't expect her to just be, you know, in tip-top shape after 60 days. This is going to be a process. And he basically says, like, he set the boundaries that if I don't see these changes in 90 days, you're going to be terminated. And I thought that was good, because it's like you got to set an expectation, and you also have to set the consequences if you don't abide by this. So, you know, Leandria has probably been able to skate by because she's had all of these yes people in her life, and they probably weren't. She's probably not used to boundaries anymore. She's probably used to doing whatever that she wants to do. So he set out the guidelines, and, you know, it was to be continued. So I don't know what we're going to see next week. Maybe Leandria will be still open to the process. We shall see. But overall, good episode. I think Leandria wants to change. I know it's hard to admit you have a problem, especially if you're able to continue functioning. You probably don't think you have a problem. Everybody thinks that unless you're like homeless, rock bottom, out on the street, you don't have a problem, but that's totally not the case. So at any rate, that was Iyanla. I will see you next time with part 2 of this episode. If you like this commentary, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe on your way out, and I will see you next time. Peace.